Welcome back to ML Miller Frights. I'm ML Miller. And today on the countdown, we have a pair of found footage films. I know, the found footage genre is so 2 decades ago, but the first person POV still gets me when the investment is there and the story is good. Here are 2 examples of just that. This is ML Miller Frights' Best in Horror Countdown 2020-2021. Number 30. Faking a Murderer was released on August 6, 2021. It's available on demand and digital download from 4 Digital Media. It's directed by Stuart Stone and written by Adam Rodness and Stuart Stone. Stuart Stone and Adam Rodness play themselves, a pair of low-budget filmmakers with high hopes for stardom. After viewing a suspicious video on YouTube of a man getting drunk and seemingly confessing to a murder, the two decide to make a movie about the two of them attempting to track down this suspected killer. Of course, they have no idea how to do that, but somehow, through trial and error, many dollars spent, and the hiring of a shady detective, they manage to track down the culprit. But is he a murderer or not? And how far will Stuart and Adam go to prove it? Reminiscent of another found footage-esque mockumentary, Fake Blood, which I highly recommend, Stone and Rodness's star-crossed descent into madness is made fun by following 2 people completely out of their depth, wading into pools they shouldn't, with no clue as to the dangers that await them. Faking a Murderer is a comedy of errors of sorts, with the 2 leads making every mistake possible, yet finding their goal, but having no idea what to do with it once it's found. Because Stone and Rodness are so much fun to watch making these bonehead mistakes, the film works. I can't say the 2 of the leads are likable. They're constantly trying to steal credit and the spotlight from one another. With the 2 of them so familiar with each other, they are longtime friends, this familiarity leads to some great moments of banter and argument. There's a real comfort the 2 have, that is communicated well. Having the actors not acting like they're acting is difficult, but it's crucial in the found footage genre. But the closeness of the 2 leads make this feel effortless. Like this is a film that's actually capturing these 2 dupes in the wild rather than seeing characters reading lines. Now I'm hoping there aren't 2 people as boneheaded as this in real life, but I know people like this exist. So starry-eyed that they don't see the obvious dangers ahead of them. It's because of this very human flaw in both Stone and Rodness that makes them worth investing in. When things get dire, and things do get very dire, you wince at the horrors these 2 find themselves in the middle of. Seeing these 2 bumbling fools dive headfirst into the unknown is painful to watch, especially when you've journeyed with them the entire way and understand how much time, and especially money, they have invested in this endeavor. But the over-the-top bloody finale aside, this is a film lovers will love, as it really does communicate the stresses and hard work that goes behind the scenes of making a movie work. Because we hear Rodness's beleaguered phone calls with the producers, the bank, and his wife, the viewer understands the pressure these 2 are under. They've started something and have to go full bore into it because there's no other option. Because this desperation is communicated so clearly and effectively, I felt heartbroken while watching this whole thing unfurl in front of them. But it's not all blood, sweat, and tears. Faking a Murderer is a funny film. As I said, these 2 are likable losers, riffing off of one another and bumbling through their day-to-day. When they rip on each other, you laugh with them, and then you laugh at them for the ludicrousness of the entire situation they've made for themselves. It's an uncomfortable kind of comedy, one where you get close to the characters because they're so charming, but also laugh at them because they make every possible bad decision with an undeniable earnestness, and it's so damn endearing. The final reel of Faking a Murderer is intense, violent, and gory, while the film before the climax is jovial and a comedic telling of how not to make a movie. The ending is stone serious and chilling. But the shift is not a jarring one. As I said before, this is a descent into the darkness, and while some of the way is downright hilarious, the end result of these actions make for a sobering experience. Faking a Murderer is a wonderful shockumentary that'll keep you on your toes and screaming at the screen for the players to go anywhere but their inevitable chilling destination. Sure, the found footage style of films have become passé, but there are always exceptions. Faking a Murderer uses the found footage style well and backs it up with a compelling and funny story of the dangers of shooting for the stars and, despite all the odds, getting there. Today's bonus review is 15 Things You Didn't Know About Bigfoot. It was released May 7th, 2021, and it's available on demand and digital download from Cranked Up Films. It's directed by Zach Lamplugh and written by Brian Edmond and Zach Lamplugh. Brian Edmond, who wrote this film along with director Zach Lamplugh, stars as himself, a disillusioned journalist working hard to make it to the big time and get that coveted primetime spot. But Brian and his best friend / producer, Zach, the director and co-writer, Zach Lamplugh, seems to only get the puff pieces and clickbait assignments such as what is the craft beer scene in the war-torn Crimean Peninsula all about, and how do you make artisanal antibiotics. But when the primetime gig goes to a rap star, Brian is ready to call it quits. Zach convinces Brian to go on one last assignment in northern Georgia to investigate Bigfoot investigators. While Brian believes this is another bit of nonsense journalism, he soon finds himself wrapped up in the Bigfoot phenomenon and just might be on the trail of the real Bigfoot himself. Paired with an eccentric Bigfoot hunter named Jeff, played by Jeffrey Stevenson, the three head out to the dense forests of Georgia to prove the myth that Bigfoot is real. The point of 15 Things You Didn't Know About Bigfoot isn't if we get to see Bigfoot or not. I'm not going to spoil it whether they find the beast or just end up wandering around the woods for an hour 20. The point is that this is a story about a person lost and finding something worth living for. While this is a goofy comedy at times, everyone plays things straight and earnest, which sets up for some truly funny scenes. Brian Edmond is completely jaded, and it comes out in every deadpan delivery of his lines, whether he's on camera or not. Brian seems unable to get out of this rut, and it really doesn't take a lot to understand his plight and share the thrill he has experiencing what he thinks to be a Bigfoot encounter. Since we are all inundated with a 24-hour news cycle, we all understand the stupid puff pieces Brian has to endure. So there's this automatic association with Brian's headspace that really works right from the beginning. While his deadpan act may feel a little bit one note, and occasionally he comes off sort of like a Ray Romano type, Brian Edmond does a great job playing the straight man to all of the insanity going on. On the other end of the spectrum is Jeffrey Stevenson's Jeff, who uses Bigfootin' as a way to distract himself from the disaster of a life he has. Stevenson's comic timing is excellent, and while he plays an over-the-top character, he's utterly likable and makes for the perfect foil for Brian's no-nonsense demeanor. I love the sequences where Brian attempts to get to the bottom of Jeff's problems, and Jeff counters every probe by shushing Brian and acting like he heard a Bigfoot. This act of evasion got me every time. Sure, there's poop humor and lowbrow stuff going on, but honestly, what really worked with me was that Lampaw and Edmond really know their Vice-like shows and parody it quite fantastically. Having just watched Sasquatch on Hulu, which took itself sometimes way too seriously, it was fun to see 15 Things You Didn't Know About Bigfoot lampoon it so well. If you've seen any of Vice's reports, you'll recognize the air of pretentiousness that comes from the constant narration, the split-screen graphics used to spice up the scenes, and the notion that the reporter and the cameraman feel they know better and are better than the subject matter they're filming. It's all there, even the late-in-the-game moral lesson the reporter learned from his experience that is supposed to change his life completely. Whether Bigfoot shows up or not, this is a wildly entertaining film, especially if you're like me who devour immersive documentaries like they're cookies at a cocktail party. There's definitely some body action and even some carnage to be had that I won't spoil, but I promise you it'll make you Bigfoot enthusiasts smile, even though the big guy is not the main focus of this film. Come back tomorrow for the next installment to the Best in Horror Countdown 2021. If you hit all the pertinent bells and whistles down below, you're sure never to miss it. See you then. You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside your reality. You're